I feel like this morning has just been kind of chaotic. I don't know why.
Oh, me too.
It's like one of those days, I think. Just everything. I need to listen to, we did I do this other podcast with three other ladies. It's Moms of Real Estate. And we had this lady on, Nina, and she talks about productivity. And she was talking about only booking 50% of your day. And I was like, I really need to do that more often. It sounds difficult, but she says it's good because then, you have all the rest of the day in case things come up or whatever, you're not completely booked. And then when something comes up and it derails you from the rest of your day because you don't have any time in between anything. So thinking that's really smart.
Yeah, I kind of do that by default. That's just how I am. I try to time block, and it looks good on paper, but I'm 62 years old, Melissa, and I have learned a few things. And one of the biggest is take care of myself. Leave yourself some margin to take care of yourself.
Definitely.
So that other 50%, just go do something fun and try to forget all the stress, because I'm guessing you got a lot of stress. We all do these days. But.
We do. I think everybody does. And I think we're still, we're in that place where, in my world at least, I'm trying to figure out the new routine for everything. Yeah. So that's all different. And then, I'm homeschooling the two youngest ones that are still at home. I have older ones too that are not at home anymore, but my two little ones are 12 and 8 and they're here. So it's like constantly, I think that's the thing. I'm not overbooked, but it's just always like, can you help me with this? Can you print this out? And just constant interruptions, and I'm like, don't come in there with this.
Do you homeschool by choice or because of COVID?
Because of COVID, and it's not, I'm still using the school curriculum. I don't have my own thing. I'm using their stuff, but it was like a situation where I felt like they kind of forced you to make a decision. Are you going to send them or are you going to keep them home? And I really didn't have a lot of information at the time, and they gave us a deadline to choose. So I said, well, I don't feel like I really know enough about the protocols or anything yet, like how this is going to work. And so, I just opted to keep them at home for the first 9 weeks. And then after 9 weeks, then we can reevaluate. And then if I want to send them to school, then I can.
Yeah.
But, knowing now, probably would have sent them.
Well, another bit of encouragement is if you have to continue homeschooling them. I homeschooled all 7 of mine. And they're like amazing. They are amazing. And I did it badly. I didn't do it by the book at all. I just kind of made it up as I went. Mm-hmm. And so, you'll be fine. They'll be fine.
I know. I kind of worry about that. It's like, are they really learning enough? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. So, this is funny. So I actually had like a format I was trying to follow. So I don't like asking people the same questions because I think that's boring. And I did a podcast interview yesterday with a lady, and when I was done, I was like, that was the best interview ever, like that I've done so far. I've enjoyed everybody, but just as far as being comfortable, and because this is all still new for me too. I've done maybe like 10 so far. And I've been on podcasts, but actually like hosting one, I haven't.
Right.
But it turned out with her, it was just a conversation, very organic. And I think for me, it was a lot better, and it just felt more relaxed and not, okay, here's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to ask you these 5 questions, and it just doesn't feel natural for me. So I don't know if you're okay with that, or I can be more specific, or I just like talking, and especially, I need to learn from you. You've got 7 kids, that'd be crazy, right? Because I know when people, and the same thing with the girl yesterday, she has 4 kids.
Yeah.
And she said that, and she's like, everybody, she said, I have 4 kids. And I said, oh, cool, I have 5. And she said, finally, she said, everybody always freaks out when I tell them I have 4 kids. I said, well, I get the same reaction when I tell them I have 5. So you probably get it even more so, right? With 7?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, I try not to lead with that fact, but when it comes up, and it just organically in conversation, and I put it out there, I kind of enjoy watching the look on people's face, because their eyes get big and they're like, whoa, how did you do that?
How did you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the next question. And
Yeah.
I have no answer for that question, because honestly, I kind of can't remember. and when I do try to remember, I always come back on myself and go, geez, how did I do that? I was much younger and I had a lot more energy. So those are my stock answers, and by the grace of God, I mean, that's it. That's the best I can do. So.
Yeah, I think my response to that is usually, you just do it, right? And you don't think about, all the things that you do to make it work. You just what's the alternative? Not taking care of your kids? It's not an option.
No. So and you're not ready, and you're never ready.
No, never.
Nobody's ever ready to have a kid, much less 7. You just, like I said, you just kind of make it up as you go.
Yeah.
And do your best. I can say that.
Have you found that you have to parent them all differently?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, some I can put in buckets and kind of, pair up. They're more, but there are a couple that are just totally unique, and I parent them all of my youngest now is 23. So they're all grown. And like I said, they're doing very amazingly well. They're all gainfully employed. Nobody lost their job to COVID. They have great jobs. 5 of the 7 are college grads. The other 2 are military. 3 of my 5 boys back there in the back.
Oh, there they are.
There they are. Yeah, 3 of the 5 boys are current or former military. So they're wonderful kids, but. Yeah, they're all different. No two are alike, even close to being alike. I mean, I can kind of put them into little, these are the more outgoing ones, but that's kind of the only thing they have in common. And then I have the shy ones. Oh, and the most fun of all, I have the liberals and I have the conservatives.
I've got that mix.
Those are fun conversations.
Yeah, that's always interesting. And it's interesting how that shifts over time too.
It does.
As they get older, and right now
the
younger ones
get out in the real world.
Yeah, and things change, right? When it's your own money.
And then they try to put those wonderful, ideas, they try to put them into practice, and it doesn't quite work in the real world. And it's just fun. I'm in a really fun phase of life, because I get to watch them having to deal with the world on their own without mom, as a buffer or anything like that. And that's why
it's so rewarding, right?
I smile a lot. It's rewarding, and it's definitely rewarding, but it's also fun.
It can be stressful, but it can definitely be fun. Do you have any multiples, or are they all individual?
They're all singles.
Oh, okay.
I birthed them all. No adoptions.
Yeah. 2 of mine are twins. So I always feel like I have to say, well, I got a 2 for 1. So
there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, they're fun. Mine are, my oldest is 28. She just got married in October of last year. And then I have twins that are 21, and they're both in college right now. And then I've got a 12-year-old girl, and then an 8-year-old boy. So I have 1 boy, and he's the baby. So you can imagine what that's like.
Yeah, that's some dynamic there.
it's fun, but it's sweet. You know, the other day, two of the older ones. So one of my twins actually lives with my oldest daughter and her husband. They're all roommates. They've been roommates for a couple of years now. And they came and they picked up the little one, my little boy, and they took him for the night. And it was great because my daughter, so the other daughter, she's off at college. She doesn't live close by. She's gone off to college and has her own apartment and stuff. And then my 12-year-old was at a slumber party. So it was just a little boy at home, and they came and got him, and it was so nice. And they took him and they did stuff with him. You know, they took him to play games at a arcade thing, and they played video games with him at the house and made a big dinner. And like, he just had the best time ever. And I think that's kind of cool when, you know, people are like, oh, their kids are all spread out, you know, and it's like, I kind of like it in a way.
There are advantages. Yep. Now you don't have grandchildren yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's a possibility actually right now. So
that is the best. I had always heard, you know, people say how wonderful being a grandparent was, and they love you won't be prepared for how much fun that is. So I only have two. You know, I look at, and like my oldest, my daughter she'll be 37. And I'm like, geez, guys, there's 7 of you, only 2? Come on, get with the program. But that's okay. It's okay. They're coming. There are more coming, I feel sure. But all those 2 I have, it's like you get to be a parent all over again, but with a lot more wisdom and a lot more experience.
And plus, you get to hand them back.
And you don't have the responsibility. So you get to be a parent, and it's all fun. So you get to teach them, but you get to have so much fun. Oh gosh, I love those grandbabies.
I kind of fought that notion at first. You know, it's like, I'm too young to be a grandma.
I know that I was going to say, once I got over I can't have grandbabies. I'm not old enough. Yeah. I'm so young. But once I got over that, and it's just a life transition, and you get over it. Once I got over it, it was all gravy from there. I was like, oh, this is the best thing ever.
I'm sure once I love babies. I love babies and kids. And I know once I see that baby, it'll be over. There will be no issues about being a grandma. Although saying that sounds weird. So we're going to have to come up with some other word for that.
Nana. I chose Nana. You know, a lot of women my age get really, really creative, you know, Mama Gigi or whatever. No. Just, I don't want grandma or granny. I can't handle that, but Nana's.
Well, it's funny.
Good. It works.
So my son-in-law, his mom, she goes by SG. And I was like, SG, what is that? Sexy grandma. But she's so she's got this huge personality. She's awesome. She's so full of life and fun and everything. So that suits her. I couldn't be that person. That's not who I am, but it works for her. But I was like, sexy grandma. Okay. That's
People get so creative. I know there's a dear friends of ours, and she is Lolly and he is Pops. Lolly and Pops.
Oh, that's cute.
It is cute, but it's a little too cute. But I'm like, geez, how long did you have to devote thought to coming up with that? You know, they probably spent days, weeks even coming up with just what they're going to be called.
Do they have t-shirts? Because I would totally put that on a t-shirt.
I'm sure they do. They are the kind of people that would have t-shirts. Yeah.
That's so cute though. That's funny. So let's talk about, tell me about this, kind of what you've been doing. It seemed like there's a lot here. You've done a lot of stuff. I'm just looking at your bio and it's like, 7 kids and then being a
Mhm.
realtor and having an investing business. And I'm really interested in the this vacation business that you're
Oh,
doing.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. How did all that kind of come about?
Well, my blessing and my curse is that I love to learn. I love shiny objects. I love to research. So um, that's how I came up with the Airbnb, which is here where we live. The second story of our home is an Airbnb. But then we got shut down because of COVID. So I was forced to pivot because we lost $40,000 in bookings for 2020 once COVID hit.
That
Yeah, they
hurts.
all canceled. And I don't blame them. No hard feelings at all. It has been such a blessing to us to have the Airbnb, but I had to pivot. So I pivoted into, I had been researching this for a long time. I love tiny homes. I love vacation rentals. My husband and I really wanted a place to get out of the city because we live here in Nashville and it's wonderful, but every once in a while it just gets to be too much, especially with COVID and everybody's freaking out. So that kind of all came together with this opportunity because I'd been doing so much research on tiny homes. I discovered this tiny home development in Monteagle, Tennessee. It's on top of a mountain. I know it well because I live in Nashville. I was born in Chattanooga, and Monteagle is about halfway there. So if you're going from here to Chattanooga, you have to cross that mountain every time. So, but honestly, I don't think I had ever gotten off on that exit until we went to look at the tiny home development. And once we saw it, it was just like, oh, this is so awesome. This guy, Chip, he's a developer out of Franklin. It's his vision. And I caught it. I caught that vision like instantly. So they had a sale of lots, and we went to look at that. And when we were there, we were with a real estate agent. I didn't have my license at the time, and he said, you really should look at the model home because they're starting another development and they're getting ready to sell it. So long story short, we ended up buying the model home there. So it has just taken off. It's taken on a life of its own. It's like everything came together. They have an in-house rental program where you give them 20% of your bookings and they do everything for you because we couldn't manage that, from Nashville. It's an hour and a half away.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been on that rental program for only about 2 weeks, and we already are booked every single weekend up through the end of 2020.
Wow.
So we have enough on the books money to pay our mortgage and all expenses, utilities, everything up through January. So it has just, it has exceeded my wildest dreams. So I kind of, and we got it actually before COVID hit, but with the advent of COVID here, people are looking for properties like that. Mm-hmm. So that has kind of turned me in that direction as an investor to look for properties outside the city because that are much more in demand now because people, they know they can work from home. They want to work from home. The city is not the best place to be in a pandemic. Mm-hmm. So all of those things kind of came together, to send me in that direction. And that's going really, really well. So much so that we just bought another lot. My husband and I just bought another lot. This one's not on the mountain. This is about 30 minutes away. It's on a lake, Tim's Ford Lake. So we're going to build a house on that lot in that development on the lake, and we're going to put that one on the rental program. I've been forced to pivot because of COVID. So I've pivoted more into those vacation rentals and also into my real estate agent career. So, but I'm still doing investing.
Yeah, but that's interesting because a lot of people that I know that have vacation rentals, they took a big hit like you did, with those kind of things. But I think it's really smart the way you're approaching that, because you're 100% right about people wanting to get away, because I just did the same thing too. Even though we've been at home, we travel a lot during the summer. I love to take my kids on trips and stuff. And, everywhere was just crazy. And so at the last minute, it was totally a last minute thing, but I said, let's go somewhere. I want to be away. Yeah. And we went to Durango, and I found, in Colorado, and I found a place that was way off on its own. It was like on 30 acres and, had a hot tub, and it was all cabiny looking and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was so nice. And so it was getting away, but it definitely like being away from everything and everybody. And we could still go in when we needed stuff, but it was nice. And I think I do feel like that's what people are looking for, and that you were able to identify that, I think is really smart.
Yeah. And I thought that in my head, but the numbers bear it out. Yeah. I mean, I'm a perfect example. Our Airbnb here in Nashville is still listed on Airbnb and VRBO on the platforms. The calendar is open. People could book. No one is booking.
I need to talk to you about that, because I might want to. Yeah. We're actually looking for a women's small kind of retreat thing someplace. And I had suggested Tennessee because I love Nashville and I love
so. We would give you a really good deal. But to my point, nobody's booking here because people are just nervous, about traveling, and most, like, we sleep 12. So we have 3 full bedrooms, three bathrooms, a sleeping loft. Our bread and butter here was bachelor and bachelorette parties, family reunions, big event, people, big groups. Mm-hmm. But what I've seen, COVID shut all that down because people just don't want to travel. And so we're open and available, but nobody's booking here in the city. Contrast that with the tiny home, and it's just crazy. In 2 weeks, we booked every single weekend up through the end of the year and a lot of the weekdays. I mean, it's just like, wow, it's just mind-boggling. So the numbers bear out what I was thinking in my mind, and as a business person, that's what, at the end of the day, you have to deal with the numbers. What do the numbers say are happening?
Right. And that's a tough one too, because that's a whole, like you said, it's pivoting. So it's, you're kind of doing the same thing you were doing, but the model is different, right? Mm-hmm. So like, how can you project that out really?
Right.
Over time. But I think that's cool. So how many tiny houses do you guys have?
Well, we have one, but our lot, and this is why we bought the model home. The lot most of the lots there are like 1/3 to 1/2 of an acre, but ours is 1.7. We got like almost the biggest lot in the whole development, and there are roughly 50 lots there, and ours perked for 2 bedrooms. So each tiny home, the tiny homes they're actually mobile homes, but you would never know it. They don't look like it at all. They're adorable and people love them. So each one has 1 bedroom, and so we can put a second tiny home on our lot, and that's our plan, is to end up with 2 of them. I have to fight the inclination to think like, wow, this is the most awesome thing ever. Let's get 20 of them.
Mhm.
Because, you know, right now it's crazy successful, but that doesn't mean it will be in, you know, 2 or 3 years. So kind of have to keep that balance.
So is that community that it's in, is it all tiny homes, or is it? Oh,
It
okay.
is. It is. The developer really had an awesome vision. He bought a piece of property that had natural features. So there's a waterfall there. There's a creek. So our lot backs up to a creek. And then he did it right. He went in and he put in underground utilities. It's a gated community. It's rustic, so there's a gravel roads throughout. He put in hiking trails. It is really adorable. I cannot tell you how much we love going there ourselves. Mm-hmm. So that's what told me, you know, hey, if we love it this much, I think other people will too, and they are. So it's pretty fascinating how he did it. He put in high-speed internet. That's a biggie, because out on that mountain, they don't, half the time, you have 0 bars.
Yeah, that was us in Colorado.
Yeah, he put in high-speed internet, so you can make phone calls using the Wi-Fi, and there's never an issue.
That's nice. So
he thought of everything.
There, are they, do most people live in them, or are they all kind of vacation rentals, or is it a mix?
There are currently, of the 50 lots that they sold, there are 18 rentals. I think there are probably going to be a few more. I would say I'm guessing they're going to end up being half rentals and half owners, and of that breakdown of non-rentals, probably half of them are developed. There's a certain number of lots that people are just holding. They're probably, I'm guessing they're going to hold for a few years and then sell and make a really nice profit.
Yeah.
So some of them may never have tiny homes on them, but right now, I'd say a little over half the lots are developed. So you can actually stick build from scratch your own home. Most people order theirs from, it's Clayton Mobile Homes are the ones that do. They have a line, they call them designer tiny homes. And that just means they don't look anything like a mobile home. They're just cute as can be. They're really well built. So most people just order them because you can get them delivered and installed within 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
In 6 to 8 weeks, you can be living in your tiny home there.
So what does something like that cost?
I will tell you exactly, because I'm an investor, and we just shoot the numbers out there. We're not shy. We paid $170,000 for our property. So that was the lot, the tiny home. We paid a premium. I think most people probably were in the 130 to 150 range. Mm-hmm. We paid a premium because of that, because it perks for 2 bedrooms, and we knew we wanted to put a second one on there, and because it has a bigger lot.
Yeah.
So like I said, it was the model home. So when the real estate agents for the development had been living there. So once they got out and we took possession of it, we were doing a deep clean, and we found the receipt where they ordered so for the tiny home itself from Clayton Mobile Homes, it cost $67,000. Now that was 2 years ago. So the tiny home itself was 67. Now, when you buy it, you pay the development a certain amount of money, and for that they will build the foundation, so it's on a permanent foundation. They will put in the driveway, all the landscaping. So it's turnkey once you get it. So most people, so if you round up, say they pay $70,000 for their tiny home, they'll end up paying a total of like $120,000 for the development to do all the rest of the work, hooking up the utilities, you know, foundation, landscaping, driveway, all that.
Okay, that makes sense. Do they, are the lots improved already, or is that part, like, do they have to do that each time? Like,
they do that each time the owner, so when the owner's ready, the owner buys the lot, and that's all they have, unimproved lot.
Okay.
When the owner's ready, they tell the development, if that's the direction they go, they tell the developer, hey, I'm ready, I'm ordering my tiny home, it's gonna be here on this date, and then the developer takes it from there and they get everything ready.
Okay. That's kind of nice, right? Because
it is.
If they deal with all that stuff, I remember I built a home one time, my personal home, and coordinating all that stuff and the expense involved with all that. It's such a pain.
Yeah. So for roughly $50,000, which, you know, a lot of people would go, whoa, that's so much money. I'll just do that myself. Trust me, you know, it adds up. All of those little things, you know, like, I built a new construction house in Chattanooga, and just to tap into the water and sewer line was $5,000, you know? So, I mean, it's just, it adds up so quickly. And to have somebody do all of that for you, have it all in place, it was, to me, it's well worth it.
Oh yeah. No, I'm all about paying for convenience.
Yep.
To the extent sometimes it's probably not a good thing for me, but I would rather just like pay somebody and have it done than try to deal with all that hassle myself.
My recent, I can do that myself moment was when COVID hit and all the salons shut down. I decided to color my own roots. And let's just say that I just made an appointment with my stylist, Betsy, and will happily pay her all that money to do my hair, because there's a lot more behind what she does than what I see. So yeah.
And there's value in paying for somebody else's experience too. I think, you know, it's like if they're the expert, let them be the expert. This is like, it kind of goes into that whole thing of like, you don't have to be an expert at everything, you know what you're good at, and let somebody else take the reins, and because that's, you know, they've mastered that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And what what I've learned to do is to remind myself, Ciindy, your time is more valuable than to be coloring your hair and trying to figure that out for hours.
You're braver than me. I had roots that were like, it was bad because my hair grows really fast too. So it was, and I have to thin it because it's really thick. And so, you know, months of no haircut, no hair color. So I had all this gray hair. The roots were so long. And then it was like, I just lived in a bun basically for like 6 months, or however long it's been. I don't know. When I finally got my hair done, I don't know. Fixed. But my daughter did make me dye her hair, and I blame TikTok. You know, she came in, and I swear it was like every week, you know, I want pink in my hair. And then
oh gosh,
that would happen. And then I want purple, I want blue, and everybody was doing it. So I couldn't find the hair dye at the store. And I don't know how to color hair either. Again, I'm not an expert in hair dye. So I'm like nervously bleaching like pieces of her hair so that it will take the color, and just praying it doesn't fall out or something, damage it beyond repair. I said, well, you wanted this, so, you know, but leave the expert work to the experts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny. So you've got your tiny homes, and now you're a realtor also. That's new since November, you said?
That is new. Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe
how's that going?
Like so much of my life, I kind of backed into it. I just, it was actually Sharon Vornholt. We were talking on a call one day, and I said, I keep seeing these probate leads, but they're for pretty houses, these $1 million houses in Nashville. And she's like, why don't you get your license and you can market to them too?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good idea. And so I did it, and then COVID hit, and I put everything on pause and just pivoted into that. And what I have discovered is that there are certain parts of being a realtor that I absolutely love. There are certain parts that I despise. I hate. I mean, I have stood in the middle of the room going, I hate this. I hate this. But that's not entirely true. The part I love has to do with people. I love meeting people. I love developing those relationships. But like the nuts and bolts, I mean, there's so much behind what goes on, with being an agent, that it's just a lot. So I found a partner. I partnered up with a young woman down the street, and honestly, my weakness is her strength, and her weakness is my strength. So we are like hand in glove. So that's going really well. Now, see, I've lost my train of thought. You asked me a question about being a realtor.
Just how you liked it and how it was going. You think that?
Yeah, it's going really well. Oh, I know where I was going. What I discovered is that I really love marketing. I love the marketing. I went through this marketing program, and I never thought of myself, and I still don't think of myself as a salesperson. I mean, the thought of being in sales is like, ugh, I run for the hills. But
I feel like everybody I know has that issue. I'm the same way too. Nobody I know likes sales.
But the marketing, like, to me, it's kind of like a competition to see if I can draw people in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think of as marketing, especially the type that I'm doing, online, inbound, organic marketing. So the last couple of months, I've really taken a deep dive into that. And I don't want to do it for a living, but I've just discovered that, that's an aspect that I love. So that gives me another clue as to how, in the end, my absolute best life and business is going to look, what it's going to look like. Because I think we're all a work in progress,
mm-hmm.
and none of us really will ever arrive at perfection. But, getting closer and closer to I'll speak personally, to what my best life and my best business, which is part of my best life, looks like. That's what I'm after. That's the great pursuit. That's what I wake up wanting every day, is to get closer to that, that elusive goal of perfection, which I know I'll never arrive there, but knowing that every day I'm working to get closer, that brings me fulfillment, in life.
I love that. And that's really what I love about being an entrepreneur, is that very thing. We are, especially as entrepreneurs, we're always evolving and growing and learning things. And I swear, I feel like I'm you just like back here, but because the same things, like exactly, like I started to pursue becoming a realtor too, for the very same reason. All these leads that we're getting, they're all like pretty houses. They don't need any work. They don't have a lot of equity. It's like, these would be perfect listings, and I can't do anything with them. I can refer them, but that doesn't help me. And so, I had thought about getting my license, and then I love marketing too, a lot. And I think it's a thing, but it's that progression, that development of like learning, trying something new, learning it, and like, what do I like about this? What do I not like about this? What can I take what have I learned about this that I've enjoyed that I can take on to the next level, you know, and leave the other stuff behind. And just always remembering that we don't have to stay in one spot no matter where we are in life, no matter how old we are or economically or anything. You know, you can always pivot and change. And I think that's such a cool thing to recognize and know that it's okay too. Because I think a lot of people get in that spot where they feel like they're stuck there, you know, and you have to keep doing the same thing all the time. And it's like, you can always change what you're doing. And if you try something new and pursue something new, and if you like it, cool. If you don't, then you tried it and you move on, you know, but what did you learn from it? What did you take from that? And that helps you build, you know, grow as a person.
Right.
So I think that's
I've come to understand that I only ever fail if I quit. And I just have that in me. That's a blessing, is I have that in me that I don't ever quit. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just not going to quit. I'll pivot. I'll look at something and go, oh, this is really not working at all. And so I need to go do something else. I'll pivot, but I'm not going to quit. I have this little saying taped to my bookcase over here, and it says, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And the more I unpack that, the more powerful it is, because that definition of success has nothing to do with failure. You know, as long as you are progressing, you know, in realizing a goal, an idea, you know, an ideal that you're working toward, then you're successful. We're successful. You are successful right now. You haven't arrived at your goal yet, but you're successful according to that definition of success, which I believe. You are successful right now where you're sitting, because you are progressing toward that ideal, you know, your own personal goal. So I you know, that's one of several sayings that, you know, those are my morning and evening affirmations that I keep close.
I love that. I love that. That's a great, I love quotes and stuff too. And actually thinking about what you said, I have a quote on my wall too, and that's in front of me. And it says, if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but never the goal. And I think it's right in line with that. You know, it's like you have this goal that's take you, you know, several different ways to get there, and you can take different paths to get there, you know, but still, if that's your goal, that's your goal, you know, and there could be 10 different ways that you get there, depending on what happens to you. Yeah. You know, like you said, pivoting and changing, you know, with your business and being able to, but you're still pursuing one goal, right? Even though, you know, you're a realtor and you've got tiny home investments and regular investments and, you know, all the other things, but it's still, you're still working towards one end goal.
Yeah. And I encapsulate that by saying my ultimate goal is to live my best life ever. You know, that's where I'm going. And that's really, really broad and very general, but it helps, you know. I remind myself, what does that look like? You know, I want to live my best life ever.
So what does that look like for you? What does your best life look like?
Well, I actually took some time about 6 months ago to sit down and write that out. And I came up, I could pull it up, I won't. I came up with things like freedom. I want to be free to use my time as I decide and not as someone else decides. So that eliminates ever having a quote unquote real job, you know, and that comes from that entrepreneur. I want to, and then really tied along with that is I want to help other people. And that's such a common saying, but, you know, I really own that. I really mean that. I have been blessed with a wonderful life. So I want to pay it back, pay it forward, pay it sideways. I want to turn around and help somebody else that's struggling. Like I've struggled, in the past so many times. I've been there. So that positions me to be able to help people from a position of empathy and being able to relate, by saying to them, hey, I've been where you are. I may not understand exactly what you're feeling, but I've been in your situation and I survived, and you can too. I can encourage people. So that's my passion. That's my ultimate passion. And so, I'm just in a different life phase. So like I said, I've lived a wonderful life. And I have achieved financial independence, which that's one of my goals. But so I have the luxury and the blessing and the ability of being able to help other people, genuinely help them. I mean, one of my mantras, and I'm going to incorporate this more and more into my marketing, is I want to help you whether or not we ever do business together.
I like that. Because you never know. That comes back to you,
It does.
We do that with sellers too. Even if you don't sell to us, and actually Sharon and I talked about this too, the last time she and I talked, she had this great thing where she'd said, if I'm not your plan A, can I be your plan B?
Yeah.
And so even though you're not sure if you're able to help that person in that moment, that doesn't mean that you couldn't help them down the road or somebody that they know might need.
Yeah. And so easy and so intuitive.
Oh, right. And they have added so much to it since I started using it. Cause I remember my sister-in-law telling me about it years ago, actually. She's in the education field and she's like, you should try this Canva thing. It's pretty cool. And I think she had some kind of relationship with the people that started it or something. And cause she does education, but technology in education.
Uh-huh.
And so she shared it with me and it's like, this thing is awesome. And I have seen it grow over the years. And now it's like, you can do anything. I literally do everything on Canva just because it's easy and I can save it and I can download it all different kind of formats. And man, I save all my, you can do like the brand templates.
Yep.
So
I have my brand colors in there.
Yeah, you can build the whole thing. That's what I just did the other day because I'm doing this 5-day free challenge, to change your business, change your life. And I'm creating some slideshows and graphics and stuff like that. And I kept forgetting. And so I had this like Post-it note with all my stuff, the codes and everything. I'm like, why am I doing this? I should just set this up in the brand thing. That way it's there with the logo and all the colors and all the fonts and all that stuff is there and it'll just come into whatever I'm doing now. And it makes it so much easier.
Yep. Guess how many hours I spent one day or 2 or 3 coming up with my brand colors. And there's only like 4 of them. How many shades of blue can there be? Well, the answer is an infinite number. Come to find out. So yeah, I love Canva. I love, Flowdesk, listings to leads, those are realtor specific, but all of this technology. And then I'm learning, I mean, I have my license since November and I kind of stumbled into my first 3 listings. And those closed. They all closed in the month of July. And it was just the grace of God. It was a miracle. But they did. And so, but I've never had a buyer. I've only been a listing agent. I've never been a buyer agent until my daughter decided like a few days ago that she wanted to buy a house. So now I'm a buyer agent. So I'm learning that side of the agent business. And that brings in like all this other technology. Keller Williams is just full of it. They kind of like to market themselves as, the best tech in the industry. And boy, it's almost too much. That's what I fight. And that's what I was referencing when I did my, what do I struggle with?
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, one of the things I struggle with the most is just information overload. It's not that I can't find what I need. It's just that I find mountains of it and I have to sift through, to figure out what's the best, what's the best, the most efficient, the most cost efficient, time efficient, the simplest. That is the biggest problem that I run into.
So maybe something to think about with that is just starting out by prioritizing those things. Like when you're taking in information, what is the most important to me? Is it cost? Is it efficiency? Is it whatever else it could be? And maybe start ranking those things and then just like start cutting them, because that whole thing, done is better than perfect, which is so difficult. And
yes,
I know that's easier said than done, because I struggle with the same thing. I have ADHD, and I'm always I think I have it just right. And then it's like, oh, wait, but look at that, and then I want to redo, and it has to be perfect. Yeah, it's got to be perfect before I put it out there.
Yep.
And my business coach has told me, just do it. And that, it's so difficult for me to just do something. But I did find that if I figure out what the priority is, so for me, like this challenge, for example, that I'm doing, I've never done anything like this before. I hate being live. I don't know. I struggle with being on video and stuff like that. But my why is so much greater that I'm willing to push through that, to do it. But it's like, well, I want to put together this beautiful presentation and all this stuff, and it all looks cohesive and everything. He's like, just do it. And so I had to decide what's important to me, and the content was the most important to me. When I really thought about it, it's like, I want it to look pretty, but what's more important, what I'm saying or how it looks?
Ooh. Okay.
And so that's a big thing with marketing.
That's a good one.
It's like,
takeaway.
Yeah. Is your message more important or how it looks? You can make it look nice, but not spend hours on it. But what's more important is, are people going to read that message? What is the message saying? Does that relate to them? And really focusing on that instead of the other things.
Okay. I'm seriously writing that down, because that one I haven't thought of. So what's more important, how it looks or content?
Yeah, that was a big one for me with that. And even with my marketing pieces that I do in my house flipping business, is the same thing. I was trying to design all these awesome looking postcards and everything. It's like, who cares? If they're going to throw it in the trash at the end of the day because my message sucks, then it's pointless. I just wasted a bunch of money.
Okay. And what I'm reading consistently is that the studies are bearing that out. People respond better to imperfect marketing. If you make it so polished and so perfect, it ends up kind of being a turnoff to a lot of people, because their mind perceives it as, oh, this is salesy, this is slick. Whereas if you come across just being a normal person, an imperfect person, you're more well received.
For sure. Well, people respond to authenticity. And if it's too polished, it feels too corporate, and that's something that we found too. And it's like, it looks great, but I would rather do business with somebody that I have a connection with. And so it's that whole thing, where people do business with people they like, versus, how big your company is or something.
I'm laughing because I'm just thinking, even knowing that for a fact, I will still go and just try this one other font to see if it little.
No. So my challenge to you is to pick 5 fonts and just use those fonts all the time. And I actually narrowed myself down to 2.
Okay.
For that particular. So I have, like for this challenge thing that I'm talking about. And so here's the cool thing: for each thing you do, you can have different fonts. So like maybe on my postcards, I'll use this font, or, on my website, I'll use it. I don't know. You could try that, maybe split test it, but I still do really believe in consistency. And so if you just pick 5, like your top 5 fonts, and that might even be too many, maybe 3 is better, but start with 5.
Okay.
And
I'll put 2 to 5.
Yeah, like use those consistently. That way there's the consistency and the look of everything so that it is recognizable, and it keeps things simple for you because you're not having to dig around like, oh, which font should I use today? It's like, these are my fonts. That's what I'm going to use. And that's the end of it. So you spend the time up front kind of planning that stuff out. Like, here's the fonts I like, here's the colors that I'm going to use, and everything uses that. And then if you want to split test something, pick a different set of fonts and a different set of colors one at a time, like, and split test that, see if one performs better than the other, and then nix the one that doesn't work so well. That way you've always just got one working thing that you're using. That could be helpful in just getting focused.
That is helpful. So you've given me 2 really good. It takes a lot to get me to write down a note, because that means it's something new that I hadn't thought of before. And I think a lot. I'm constantly, this crazy brain is constantly churning, to come up with the next big idea. Or I don't know if you do this. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and my brain is going a million miles an hour, and there are a billion thoughts just fly. They'll fly through so fast I can't even grab one. So
I keep a notebook of ideas.
Yeah.
I've got business ideas and marketing ideas and all kinds of stuff in a notebook, just waiting.
I literally hate having to write something down. I'm not a physical note writer. So I do the same thing, but it's digital. So I'll grab my phone and hit the microphone button and talk to my phone. And I keep a running, I do that in my notes section on my phone and on my computer. I have probably 5 or 6 different documents of notes, which is why I spend so much time just looking for something. I know it's there. It's just like, which document did I put that in?
See, that's why I use the notebook, because it's like, I could at least flip to the notebook and find it quickly. But I am so passionate. Sharon and I talked about this too, because we were laughing. She said, I write everything down. It's like, I do that too. I have notepads everywhere. Notepads, notebooks. I love all that stuff. But I love, for some reason, when I write things, because my head is the same, always like a million things, and I'm losing my train of thought all the time. But if I write it down, then it solidifies it, and I remember it better too. So, and I know there's science behind that, but I actually do love the act of writing, because I just like it. I don't know why. It's just who I am, I guess. But something else I was just thinking about too, talking about your marketing and going back to what you were saying about your perfect, living your best life and what you want to do with your life. And I don't know if you came across any of this sort of thinking in your marketing study, but people love a story, and sharing your story and your marketing is really, really powerful. And sharing your why, I think, could be even more powerful too. When you're thinking about, you're living your best life, you talk about helping people, why do you want to help people? And do that whole, ask why 3 times to get down to a really deep core, not just, because I want financial freedom, because I like helping people. Why is that?
Right.
Using that in your marketing when you're talking to people, especially being a realtor, you know, when you're looking for dealing with clients and stuff like that, you know, this is why I have an interest in helping you. And it's not because, you know, I want to make money and sell a bunch of properties and be a top producer or something, you know, it's, I genuinely want to help people because, and craft that into your message somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've, have you read Building a Story Brand?
Donald Miller is my hero.
Okay, yes, he is amazing.
Yes.
He is amazing. So that's a great tool. Like, actually, if you, I don't know if you've done it, but go through the whole story brand framework and print the thing out was really helpful for me, because it made me realize, like, some of the stuff that we had, you know, just like, what is our mission? You know, it was BS. You know, it wasn't. That's really not.
Yeah. It sounded like everybody else's mission.
Yeah. And I don't want that. And that's what sets you apart. Because how many realtors are there in this country? Like probably 1 million, who knows? So how are you going to make yourself different from all those other people? How are you going to set yourself apart? And the only way you can do that is with your own personal story, you know, your own personal why, because everybody's is different. It's not going to be the same. And that's, there's only one you know, so.
I know I have no problem understanding that my life and my experiences can be helpful to other people. It's communicating that, you know, broadcasting that, dispersing that out there so that people know, you know, can see that and are motivated to, you know, reach out to me. That's where I'm at right now. You know, that's what I'm doing. So
yeah, try to drill down that ask why 3 times and get it down to like 1 sentence.
Okay.
And then it doesn't have to be that sentence on all your marketing, but it could be, you know, like, how many different ways could you say that? Right. You know, but once you understand that, I think crafting the message would be a lot easier too. There's another book. What is it? Have you read Seth Godin? This is Marketing.
No, I haven't. But anything my daughter references, I pay attention to, and she's mentioned him a lot. My daughter, Lauren, works for Dave Ramsey here in Nashville, and she's like a marketing director. She's a social media marketing director. And yes, I have reached out to her to help me, and she will, but she's a very busy person. But anything that she mentions in passing, I'm like, okay, what was that? You know, I'll write that down. And the first thing she ever mentioned was Donald Miller, but she's mentioned Seth Godin several times. So, but no, to answer your question, I haven't read. Yeah. I've probably read some of his stuff, but no, I haven't read that particular book.
It's pretty good. There's some good nuggets in there too. Okay.
All right, well,
yeah.
Since we've kind of segued a little bit into books, here's my favorite of all time.
Oh, let me see.
Right behind the Bible, okay? You gotta be careful because there's a book out there called The Art of War, and it's by some Chinese guy, and it's a classic bestseller. Oh, this one is The War of Art. And it's by Stephen Pressfield. He wrote, have you ever seen the movie The Legend of Bagger Vance?
That's Matt Damon was in that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie. And so was Will Smith. And that really pretty, Charlize Theron.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a golf.
Really good movie, but he wrote that book. And this book, the hardest part about this book is trying to explain what it's about. It's about doing and living out that one unique purpose that we all have. And we all know we have, but most of us spend our whole lives running from it. That's kind of what he says. And he talks about it's kind of a spiritual book. I don't even know if he's a Christian per se. I don't know what flavor of spiritual but he is a spiritual person. And the book has a kind of a spiritual overtone, but it's not like in your face at all. But he talks about there's a force in the universe, and he calls it resistance. And we can all immediately relate to it, because he explains it like, as soon as we start to live out our own unique purpose that we all have, resistance immediately kicks in. So for me, I find resistance every day, and I have to battle it. So my resistance is, I need to make a phone call and I'm not looking forward to it. It's not a good one, but it's got to be done. Mm-hmm. And so rather than picking up the phone and doing it, I'll go check Facebook and see if anything, I'll look at the news. I'll, fill in the blank. So that's resistance. And the power of this book is that it helped me recognize, that resistance is in play in my life every single day, and how to combat it. And how to combat it is so simple. You just show up and you do the work, which is why he wrote a sequel called Do the Work.
I think I've heard of that one, but I didn't know.
He wrote another one called Turning Pro. And in Turning Pro, he contrasts the professional with the amateur. And he posits that most of us live our lives as amateurs. We kind of sort of dance around that our one unique purpose without ever really addressing it head on and finding it and living it out. The most powerful books I've ever read.
Wow.
I tried to get my husband to read it.
I'm going to order those. I'm going to order those.
I highly, just start with The War of Art, and
because that is something that I struggle with, I think, myself a lot too, is that resistance. I didn't have a name for it, but
right.
It's like, why is this so hard?
We all immediately recognize when you start describing resistance, and he does a fantastic job. When you start describing it, every single one of us go, oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I never thought of it as resistance.
I was there 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is.
And having read this book over and over again, because I get new stuff every time I read it, but it keeps that top of mind. Mm-hmm. So I may still go waste time on Facebook, but now I recognize there is a little voice in the back of my head going, Ciindy, you're wasting time. You're giving into resistance, and it just helps. It has helped me in so many ways. I tried to get my husband to read it for months and months and months, and he resisted. And then finally he read it, and now we speak the language to each other, like throughout the day. He'll come in because he's a songwriter, and he stays in his little cubbyhole office, and I stay in mine all day. But we have the best life. We do. But we'll come out, every once in a while, and we'll usually say, like, I'll usually say, like, well, what are you doing? And half the time he'll say, I'm fighting resistance. So we both speak the language, and it helps so much, just to me, it removes a certain measure of guilt, because until I understood that is a force that really is at work in my life and everybody's life, I kind of had this low-level guilt that I was carrying around, and I didn't even know what it was for. But now I know the enemy, and I know how to fight the enemy. So it's just, I can't tell you how much that book, now I've built it up so much, it's probably not going to be all that
I don't know. I'm a huge book nerd, so I'm always willing, like, I love good book recommendations because I'm always, I can't see I hurt my neck this morning, so I can't turn my head. I slept weird last night, but I have books over here. Those are the books I still need to read. But then I have a wall over here that's covered in books that I've read, and I just get so much from reading. And even if you just get one good nugget, from a book, I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, reading is my great escape. When I can't get out of town to the tiny home, I can always escape into a book. So like that's just a tiny little portion. I've got a big bookcase over here and one over here that you can't see. The same thing. I love a good book.
I do too. And I love an actual book, not a digital book. I want the book. I want to hold the book. So all the books in here are like personal development and business and things like that. But then my bedroom is all my books that I read for pleasure. So that's, it's kind of helpful for me to separate those two, I think. It's like, this is the workspace, and that's where my head is when I'm in this room. And then, when I'm reading in my bedroom, it's to relax. So it's kind of a nice way to separate that. Well, I have to jump off here. I got a challenge that I got to do. And
I just looked up at the clock. I was like, holy cow.
Oh, but this is good. And you're so awesome. Like,
oh, thank you.
I feel like I could learn a ton from you.
And I can say the same. Like I said, it's kind of hard to get me to take something down because that means I hadn't thought of it already. So I've written 4 or 5 nuggets from this. So,
well, if there's anything else I can help with, if you ever want to talk marketing or bounce ideas, I'm an idea person. I love thinking about different ways to do things and how to be creative with stuff, and just feel free to reach out and we'll have a session. You can pick my brain and
that sounds great.
Figure something out.
Love to do that.
Awesome. We'll have to thank Sharon for connecting us. She told me, she's like, you're going to love her.
I will never forget my first phone call to Sharon. I pulled off the exit in Tiftonia in Chattanooga, and I sat in the parking lot of the Cracker Barrel and talked to Sharon forever. And she's awesome.
Oh, she is. She and I've had some really long talks too. She's just so, I just love her. I was like, she's my spirit animal. She's just so smart and down to earth, and totally understand her.
And she doesn't mince words. She doesn't pull punches. She says what needs to be said, and I really appreciate that. And honestly, I have no idea how she finds the time, because she's everywhere. She's always doing this podcast and on that, video, and she is my marketing spirit animal. She's doing a great job. And I checked you out, Melissa, and so are you. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to help anytime, and I'm going to read these books too. I'll have to let you know how it goes after I finish them.
Okay. Good.
Well, thank you so much. I will, I'll be in touch with you when we get ready to roll this out. That way, if you want to share it or watch, listen, whatever, you'll have it available.
Great. That sounds great. Let me know if you need that video.
Yes. Yeah. Hang on to that just in case.
Yeah. My computer will probably spend the next 30 minutes, doing its thing to convert and all that, but it'll get it up into the cloud. So I'll have it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. I hope you have a good day.
Okay. You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.